Hey everyone, welcome to Wildlife Inspired. I'm your host, Scott Keys, and in today's video, we're going to talk about the right type of light for the right bird. This is part 2 of a 2-part series, and we'll get to it right after this. Now, in part 1 of this video about the right type of light for the right birds, we discussed golden hour light and blue hour light. And in this video, we're going to talk about diffused light and hard light. Let's get started with that hard light. Now, before I get into hard light, I want to show you one thing. I'm not going to show you a lot of examples of other birds in hard light. So songbirds, I absolutely do not like in hard light at all. Again, the shadows is a big issue. The light's not pleasing. There's just very little appealing about shooting songbirds in hard light. Now, this is not to say that it can't be done. So I don't want to put that out there. It's just my least favorite. Songbirds are my least favorite. Ducks, I do not like to shoot in hard light. In fact, I'm going to show you an example of an American widgeon taken in harder light, stronger light, kind of direct light. And I'm going to show you the same subject taken in much softer light with golden tone. Now, you may find the top one more pleasing, but I can tell you, I just don't see it. The bottom one to me is way more pleasing. And while the top image isn't bad, I have a nice look at it. It's a nice pose. It's just visually, it's just not appealing to me. So I'm also not crazy about ducks in hard light. You know what? Shorebirds, unless I'm freezing the action, unless they're jumping and moving and flying, shorebird's not my favorite. But there is one subject that works really, really well in hard light, and that is birds in flight. So I'm going to show you some images down here. I'll put the settings so you could see it. And you can see in all of these images, the light is absolutely direct. These are shot well after sunrise, probably 10, 11 o'clock in the middle of fall. And you could just see I'm able to freeze the action and get good images. And that's really what a lot of people like this frozen look of these gliding raptors or these gliding birds in flight. This is a Merlin that was taken a couple years ago. This is a broad-winged hawk. I don't get to shoot these often at eye level, and what a beautiful look that one was. I remember that very clearly. There's another broad-winged hawk. And you can see I'm just able to increase my shutter speeds and really take advantage of that direct light. Now, one of the things I will tell you, and it is a problem with birds in flight taken in hard light, is the backgrounds are often not appealing. I want to go back and just show you 2 images up here. And I want you to notice one thing about them is while they're in direct light, there are some clouds behind it. And I think those clouds really help accentuate the image. It gives it some depth. It also gives it some context, so it's not just a blue sky. Now, the last type of light I'm going to talk about in today's video is diffused light. And I'm going to tell you my least favorite type of subject for this one is shorebirds. I just don't find shorebirds to look very pleasing in diffused light. In fact, I went through my catalog trying to find a few. I'll put one up here on the side, but man, there are just very few. And one of the reasons is because I don't like it so much with shorebirds, I tend to avoid it. If I know there's going to be diffused, overcast days, I tend to just find another subject or I don't shoot shorebirds. So shorebirds probably my least favorite. I also don't particularly love birds in flight. Not my favorite subject to shoot. Again, it's a little bit tougher with the action. The colors get a little muted. I just don't have a lot of available light to work with. But there are a couple subjects that can be very, very interesting in diffused light, particularly ducks and songbirds. Now I'm going to show you the waterfowl first. And you can see in these images, there's a little bit of mood. Again, I'll put the settings there so you can see what those settings look like. This is a hooded merganser, a hint of golden tone in the background there. So there might have been just a little bit of light hitting something that was lighting up the background. This one, very, very muted. By the way, a pretty popular image of mine, just very simple. They tend to just get this very simple feel with waterfowl. This is another one, maybe a couple hints of gold in there, but this is overcast conditions, misty conditions. That's a common merganser. This is a greater scalp that came in one day. I haven't had a chance to work with this. It was feet in front of my lens. It was like minimum focus. It might have even come inside. I was in a blind when it came through. Really, really excited. But again, notice the background. There's no blue tones. There's no strong golden tones. It's just very, very, very muted. And when it's overcast, you can also get some high key looks. And this is a really good example of a nice high key look taken on overcast conditions. I think the subject and the background actually work terrifically together for this long-tailed duck. And my favorite type of subject is probably just those songbirds. Now, there's a few reasons for it. I'm not saying they look better in this light, but one of the things about songbirds is the sweet spot for me shooting songbirds is about 30 minutes after sunrise, for maybe a couple hours while they're real active. So the first 2.5 hours of the day is really, really good. But if the sun is out, I'm going to deal with a lot of shadows and a lot of hard light. So this diffuse light, more than anything, just gives me an opportunity to work with the subjects for a long time. So let me just run through some of these. This is actually a blue-headed vireo, a little bit of a misty, overcast diffuse light. This is a black-throated blue warbler taken with some overcast light, and you can see the colors aren't too bad. By the way, when shooting in diffuse light and overcast light, you may need to accentuate the saturation a little bit. So I am, without remembering the exact edit that I did, I am sure that I saturated this a little bit because the colors can be a little bit washed out. This one taken just in an overcast day. One of the colors that looks exceptional, and one of the reasons songbirds work so well, is greens tend to look really, really good in diffused light. If you've never tried that, I challenge you. Go out and find some real vibrant greens and try to get some songbird images in those greens and then edit it a little bit to bring them up, and they look really, really nice. Here you could see a red-eyed vireo in diffused light. This Lincoln sparrow, I talked about the colors. You do have to pull them up a little bit sometimes, but when you do, you can get some really nice colors. These fall colors in the background really worked. And then this kind of meadow scene, very overcast, not a lot of direct light, minimizes the shadows, gives me a lot of time to work with the subjects. So that one worked really, really well. I think I've got two more quick examples. I shot this mourning warbler, I would say one of the toughest birds for me to photograph locally. I have to travel quite a distance to find them. I was absolutely delighted to find this one foraging along some native rhododendron. And then finally, this really just overcast nuthatch exemplifies the look that you get in overcast light. There's not a lot of golden tones. There's not a lot of blue tones. Some of the colors can be subdued, but if you get it right, you get very even distribution of light on the bird. And I thought this was just a really good example to finish on. Now, as a bonus, I'm going to tell you each type of bird with my preferred light as a recap, and let's go through it right now. First subject I wanted to talk about is one I don't shoot a lot, and that's owls. If I had my preference on light for shooting owls, if you said, Scott, you get to shoot an owl today, choose your light? I might choose blue hour because I think you get a really interesting effect from those blue tones, and it also allows me to use a tripod, get my shutter speeds nice and low, and I normally don't have to worry about the owls moving too much. So I would say with owls, my favorite light is blue hour. For birds in flight, I would say probably golden hour or direct light. Direct light allows me to freeze the action. The golden hour gives me nice tone. I think the problem with golden hour for me and birds in flight is it's really tough to find them and maximize that short window of time that I have. But if I can get them in golden light, number one, I would say more likely I'm probably going to get them in direct light. And direct light can work fine. Remember, as a hint, look at your backgrounds. And if you can get some nice backgrounds behind that bird, it's probably going to accentuate the image in that direct light. With songbirds, pretty easy. I just like diffuse light. I just like the way it presents itself. I know I need to edit it a little bit more, but it gives me a lot of time to work with these songbirds. I may have enough available light if it's not really, really dark and cloudy. By the way, when I say diffuse light, I don't mean those dark days of overcast light. I'm talking about light, cloudy conditions are pretty ideal for songbirds. So my best light would be these light diffuse days. That is my absolute premium for songbirds. And when I'm talking about shorebirds, I love golden hour. I love golden hour because I tend to be able to find shorebirds in that time period. If I have a good location, sometimes they get pretty comfortable and they'll come in close. Just a little tip, don't move around and chase shorebirds. It's not going to work. Best bet for shorebirds is just to lay still and wait. But for shorebirds, I really, really love golden hour. And for ducks, I would say I like blue hour, but probably golden hour. I really, really like the way ducks present themselves in golden hour. And again, if I've got a good location and I can conceal myself, I've got a pretty good chance that those ducks may start to get active and move around just a little bit. And I might get lucky and get some of the shots like the ones you saw today. So that's my video for you today. Type of light, type of bird, what my preferences are. I hope you found it interesting. And let me know down in the comments, do you agree? So if you're a beginner, maybe some of this was educational. If you're an intermediate photographer, do you agree with some of these ideas and did this help you out at all? I hope you enjoyed this whole series that I've done on light. I've really enjoyed making it for you. And again, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And as always, hit the bell for notifications so that you know when I have a new video out. And as always, I hope we can continue to find inspiration in wildlife together.